What is up, YouTube? Welcome back to Nerd Media, and with the conclusion of Phase 5 with Marvel Studios' Thunderbolts releasing last week, I figured it's no better time to rank all 5 of the MCU phases in this video, so that's exactly what we're going to be doing. We're going to be doing another ranking of all the each individual phases we have gotten, because surprisingly, we are already through 5 for the MCU, which feels like so little compared to how much content we actually have. But that's what we're going to be diving into in today's video. So if you're new to the channel, I'm Nerd Media. I talk about movies, TV shows, and comic books daily, all the time. Obviously, today is all about Marvel and all of its phases. So we're going to be diving into that ranking. But let me know in the comments down below what your ranking is, because when it comes to ranking videos, I love hearing your guys' opinions in the comments, because all the different opinions really just, it's so much fun to see them. So with all that being said, if you're new to the channel, stick around and let's dive right into the ranking. Alright, so coming in last, maybe a little bit of a shock to people who are obsessed with the OG Marvel, like me, is Phase 1. I feel like Phase 1 definitely has some of the most unrewatchable films in it, with Thor 1, Captain America 1, The Incredible Hulk, Iron Man 2. Those are some like C, B minus list kind of movies for me, but then you do have two really great movies in there with Iron Man 1 and the first Avengers. Those are both in my top 10 for the MCU. They are really great, and they are really what makes this phase shine, and you can't really say much about this phase considering it was just the beginning of the MCU, and we really do have to appreciate it for that, but it doesn't have the best films. I think the ratio to good and bad films in this phase are definitely more leaning towards the not so great ones, but that's not to say this phase definitely had a lot of great stuff in it. Coming in at number 4 is going to be Phase 4. This is by far probably the most inconsistent phase of the MCU. I mean, Phase 1 is very consistent with what its goal is doing the Avengers. This is very inconsistent, and we get a lot of insane Disney Plus TV shows in here. We get so many different movies. A lot of them are some of my least favorite movies of the MCU. But you do get movies like Eternals, No Way Home, Shang-Chi. You get like good movies like those, and obviously great ones like No Way Home, and you get really great TV shows like Loki, Falcon and Winter Soldier, WandaVision, and I would even say Hawkeye. You also have stuff like Thor Love and Thunder, Multiverse of Madness, which are not that great, especially Thor Love and Thunder, but this is definitely the most mixed bag I felt with the MCU in this phase. This was definitely the most inconsistent I've felt with the MCU and with Marvel in general, because I love Marvel more than I love anything else. So I was very inconsistent and very disappointed with how that phase was going, but it's definitely not a bad phase because you do get some really good stuff in there. Like I said, No Way Home, Shang-Chi, you get some of the Disney Plus shows. Some of the stuff is really good, but by far the most inconsistent. Now, coming in at number 3 is going to be Phase 5. Guys, this phase just concluded, and looking back on it, this phase, in terms of movies, is literally half and half. Half of the movies are not the best: Captain America Brave New World, The Marvels, and Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. And then the other half are borderline very good and just fabulous movies, with Deadpool and Wolverine, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, and The Thunderbolts. Those 3 movies are just so great to me. I'm not as high on Deadpool and Wolverine as I was when it first came out. I'm actually rewatching it tonight as I'm recording this, because I really want to figure out if I stand by that or if I think that it's just as great as I thought it was when I first watched it. Fingers crossed, I think it's great, but I'm not sure where that's going to land. But anyway, it's still a great film. And I really do feel like Phase 5 is the start of Marvel kind of getting their head back in the game of doing quality over quantity, which is they were at the total opposite in Phase 4. And I really do feel like Thunderbolts, Guardians of the Galaxy, Deadpool and Wolverine are both great products of that, along with getting fabulous TV shows like X-Men 97, and Agatha All Along was pretty good. You get Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, you have Daredevil Born Again, and then you have all this stuff that is also pretty good. But X-Men 97 is the best out of all of those. But it is a very, very fun phase overall, and it does have some misses, but I think it is very much divided, and that is a good sign for the MCU right now. Coming in at number 2 is going to be Phase 2 of the MCU. This phase definitely has a lot of the mid-tier movies that we were getting during the Infinity Saga. Like with Ant-Man, I'm not too high on, and you get some other ones thrown in there that are kind of like mid-tier Marvel. But I do think it has some of the best of the MCU of all time for me, with Captain America: The Winter Soldier. That's my favorite MCU film. That released during this phase. You have things like Guardians of the Galaxy, which is also in my top 10. Those films mean so much to me, so obviously it's going to be a main factor of this. You have Avengers: Age of Ultron, which I personally am very high on. I think that that's a very, very good movie. I love that movie so much. And then you also have movies like Iron Man 3 and Thor: The Dark World, which aren't the best, but they're still fun and enjoyable. Not so much Thor: The Dark World. I haven't rewatched that in a while, but Iron Man 3 is still very fun. This phase is kind of like the setting up and build up to what phase 3 is, and I really do appreciate that because we do get some really great stuff in here, like a Captain America: The Winter Soldier and Guardians of the Galaxy, which those two and Age of Ultron really make it this high on the list. But at number 1, I'm going to give it to phase 3. This is the most consistent that the MCU has been, and I feel like they knew exactly what they were doing in this phase, how they wanted to set up Thanos and how they wanted to set up Avengers Infinity War. That's not saying they didn't set it up in phase 2 and 1, but they definitely did. But with this being the phase we were going to get Infinity War and Endgame, this was the real big phase that was going to be a big and impactful for Marvel, because you get some absolute bangers like Black Panther, you get Spider-Man: Homecoming, which I think is a pretty good movie, not the best, but it's still pretty good, and you get Infinity War and Endgame, which are two of the best movies I have seen in terms of comic book stuff. And you get just so many fun movies. You get Thor Ragnarok, you get Captain America Civil War. This is a really big phase with a lot of great films, and I think a lot of people's favorite movies for the MCU may even be in this. Like the top 5 for a lot of people's list may single-handedly be in phase 3, which I think is crazy to think about, because this phase really had so much to accomplish and it did it all perfectly. And are all the films in there great? No, because you have stuff like Ant-Man and the Wasp, or I mean, I think Spider-Man: Far From Home is technically a part of Phase 3. That is also something I would throw in there as being all right. And you have Captain Marvel, which is okay as well. But overall, this phase was such a blast, and it was such a great build for the MCU. And it seriously is really, you can't even really say that this phase was carried by Infinity War and Endgame, because everything else is really good. But yeah, guys, that's going to be my ranking for all the phases of the MCU. I feel really confident about this list. I was going back and forth with if I would move these phases around, but it's just my personal preference, and I really do think that it's a good thing that phase 5 is actually this high on my list, being at top 3. And it's a really good sign for the MCU that we are now entering phase 6, which is insane to think about. And I'm going to be making a video right after this talking about my pre-ranking of the phase 6 projects that we know of so far, because phase 6 is looking really promising and I'm very much excited. So I want to hear from you guys in the comments down below. What do you think of this ranking? Do you think that my ranking is accurate, or just not at all, or do you have your own personal ranking that you want to share? Leave it in the comments, because I'd love to read it. But if you stuck around this video this long, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Comment down below your ranking, and don't forget to subscribe, because I clearly said something that you enjoyed or you were just entertained. So with all that being said, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.